The woman was old, her skin a map of weathered lines that spoke of a life lived, a life endured. Her hair, a crown of silver, framed a face etched with a quiet dignity that belied the storm brewing within. She had been a regular at the diner for years, her mornings spent sipping coffee and watching the world go by through the large bay window. Today, however, something was different. A new waitress, young and impatient, had been assigned to her table. The woman had ordered her usual, a cup of coffee and a slice of toast, but the waitress had seemed put out, her eyes rolling as she took the order. As the woman was about to take her first bite, the waitress approached her table once more. "I'm sorry, ma'am," she began, her voice dripping with condescension, "but we're going to have to ask you to leave." The woman's heart sank. "Why?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. "It's just, well, you're not eating fast enough," the waitress replied. "We're busy, and we need the table." The woman felt a wave of humiliation wash over her. She had never been treated so rudely in her life. Tears welled up in her eyes as she gathered her things and left the diner. As she walked out the door, she heard the waitress laugh. The woman walked home, her head held low, the weight of the humiliation pressing down on her. She had always prided herself on her independence, her ability to care for herself. But now, she felt as if she had been stripped of her dignity. As she approached her small, tidy home, she paused, her hand hovering over the doorknob. She hesitated, not wanting to face the emptiness of her house. For so many years, the diner had been her second home, a place where she felt a sense of belonging. Now, it was as if a part of her had been torn away. Finally, she gathered her courage and stepped inside. The house was quiet, the only sound the ticking of the clock on the wall. She made her way to the kitchen and poured herself a glass of water. As she drank, she thought about the waitress's words. "You're not eating fast enough." The phrase echoed in her mind, a constant reminder of her perceived inadequacy. Tears began to flow down her cheeks. She felt old and alone, a burden to the world. She had always tried to be a good person, to help others whenever she could. But now, she wondered if her life had been nothing more than a series of disappointments. News of the elderly woman being kicked out of the diner quickly spread throughout the small town. The locals were outraged. They had known the woman for years and had always thought of her as a kind and gentle soul. The idea that she could be treated so disrespectfully was unthinkable. Word of the incident reached the local newspaper, which immediately sent a reporter to the diner to get the woman's side of the story. When the reporter arrived, he found the woman still shaken by the ordeal. She recounted the incident in detail, her voice trembling as she described the humiliation she had felt. The newspaper ran a front-page story about the incident, complete with a photo of the woman. The story quickly went viral, sparking a wave of public outrage. People from all over the country expressed their sympathy for the woman and their anger at the diner's treatment of her. The diner's owner, a man named Mr. Thompson, was shocked by the negative publicity. He had never intended to harm the woman. He had simply been trying to manage his business. But now, he realized that his actions had caused a great deal of pain and suffering. Mr. Thompson sat in his office, staring at the newspaper article. He felt a wave of guilt wash over him. He had always prided himself on running a respectable business, but now he realized that he had made a grave mistake. He knew that he had to do something to make amends. He called the woman's home number, but there was no answer. He tried again the next day, but still no luck. Finally, on the third day, he reached her. When he explained who he was, the woman was hesitant to speak to him. She had been hurt and humiliated by his actions. But Mr. Thompson was sincere in his apology. He promised to make things right. The woman agreed to meet with Mr. Thompson at the diner. When she arrived, she was greeted warmly by the owner. He apologized again for the way she had been treated and assured her that it would never happen again. Mr. Thompson also announced that he was firing the waitress who had mistreated the woman. He wanted to send a message that such behavior would not be tolerated at his establishment. The woman was touched by Mr. Thompson's apology and his willingness to take responsibility for his actions. She agreed to return to the diner as a regular customer. The woman returned to the diner a few days later. She was greeted with smiles and warm welcomes from the staff, who had been instructed by Mr. Thompson to treat her with the utmost respect. As she sat at her usual table, she couldn't help but feel a sense of peace. The ordeal had been difficult, but it had also brought about a positive change. She had learned that even in the darkest of times, there is always hope. One day, while she was enjoying her coffee, a young woman approached her table. It was the waitress who had mistreated her. The waitress looked down at the ground, her face flushed with embarrassment. "I'm so sorry for what I did," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "I was young and stupid, and I didn't know any better." The woman smiled. "It's okay," she said gently. "I forgive you." The waitress looked up, her eyes filled with gratitude. "Thank you," she said. "I'll never forget this." As the woman watched the waitress walk away, she couldn't help but feel a sense of satisfaction. She had not only survived the ordeal, but had also found a way to heal. And in doing so, she had helped another person to grow. Word of the woman's experience spread throughout the community. People were inspired by her resilience and her ability to forgive. Her story became a symbol of hope and redemption. The diner, which had once been the source of her pain, now became a beacon of kindness. Mr. Thompson made it a point to ensure that all of his customers were treated with respect and dignity. The diner's reputation was restored, and it became a popular destination for people from all walks of life. The woman herself became a local celebrity. She was invited to speak at schools and community events about the importance of forgiveness and compassion. Her message resonated with people of all ages, and she became a role model for many. One day, a young woman approached the woman at the diner. The woman was surprised to see her, as she had not seen her since the incident. "I just wanted to thank you," the young woman said, her eyes filled with tears. "Your story inspired me to be a better person." The woman smiled. "I'm glad to hear that," she said. "You know, forgiveness is a powerful thing. It can heal wounds and bring people together." As the woman watched the young woman walk away, she couldn't help but feel a sense of peace. She had found meaning in her suffering, and she had become a force for good in the world. Years passed, and the woman grew older. She was still a regular at the diner, and she was always greeted with warmth and affection by the staff and the other patrons. Her story had become a part of the diner's history, a testament to the power of human kindness. One day, a young girl approached the woman at her table. The girl was shy, but her eyes were filled with admiration. "I'm so glad you come here," the girl said. "My grandma used to tell me stories about you." The woman smiled. "Really?" she asked. "Yes," the girl replied. "She said you were a very brave woman, and that you taught her a lot about forgiveness." The woman's heart swelled with pride. She knew that her legacy would live on through the generations. As she watched the girl walk away, she couldn't help but feel a sense of peace. She had lived a long and fulfilling life, and she had made a difference in the world. If you liked it, subscribe to the channel and enjoy these other amazing stories.